Hey everyone and welcome back. In today's video, we will be discussing about weight condition. Now, although weight condition might look like a single topic, but actually it contains multiple topics. Like it is related to depends on attributes, it is related to creation policies, weight condition handlers and weight condition finally. Before we go ahead and understand about weight condition, let's set our base right and start from basics. Now, the first thing that we will be studying is the depends on attribute. Now, from the name itself, depends on attribute is used for controlling resource creation order with cloud formation. So, a very simple attribute and quite easy to grasp as well. So, one of the example where depends on attribute can be used is, let's suppose that you have a EC2 instance which is getting launched in a private subnet and it needs an internet access for bootstrapping certain application related resources. So thus this specific EC2 instance can have a depends on attribute for the NAT gateway. So what this would basically mean that if the EC2 instance have a depend on attribute for the NAT gateway, then CloudFormation will not create the EC2 instance unless and until this NAT gateway is created. So only after the NAT gateway is created, the EC2 instance will be launched. So this is what the depends on attribute is all about. Now, although it might look that it will solve a lot of issues, but it doesn't. It actually have various challenges. One of the major challenge of the depends on attribute is that it is more focused on the resource creation than its readiness. Now, one of the simple example that we can give is that EC2 instance might be created, but the application inside it is not ready yet. So this is a classic example. So let's assume that you have a EC2 instance which is created and you have a 2x2 checks which are passed. So depends on attribute will assume that everything is ready and then it will go ahead and launch all the subordinate resource which have the depends on attribute for that EC2 instance. However, it might be possible that the application which is inside that EC2 instance is not at all ready and not at all working maybe. So you need a certain way in which not only you want that the creation of the EC2 instance has to be successful, but also the application inside that EC2 instance is also up and running. Then only you can go ahead and create the subordinate resource. So that is what the true challenge is. And that challenge is solved partially with the help of weight conditions and with the help of creation policies. So instead of just talking about creation policies in theory, what I decided is we'll directly do practical so that it will give you a better idea. So I have a simple cf-weight.json and what we are basically doing over here is here we are creating a EC2 instance. So this is a EC2 instance that is created. Behind that we have a security group. So this is a security group which is created. And above that there is also one more security group which is created. So you have one EC2 instance and you have two security group which is created. Now, within the EC2 instance, one thing that you will notice is that you have a creation policy block where you have a resource signal, count is equal to 1 and timeout is 20 minutes. So we'll understand on what exactly this means. And below that you have a security group and this security group is dependent on the EC2 instance. So unless and until this EC2 instance is created successfully, this specific security group will not be created. So only after the EC2 instance is created, then only this specific security group will be created. Now, this is the second security group. If we look into the first security group, this security group does not really have a depends on attribute. So it will be created simultaneously. So if you'll see over here within the group set, you have a reference and this reference belongs to here. So this security group does not really have a explicit dependency. It will be created. However, the below security group have a depends on attribute which is explicitly defined. So let's go ahead and run this template and see on what exactly will happen. So I'll go ahead into the CloudFormation console and I'll click on create a new stack. I'll upload the stack. I'll click on next. I'll say it as wait demo. And let's go ahead and create it. So the first thing, if you'll see over here, there is one create underscore complete status for the security group, which has the ID of SSH server security group. So this specific SSH server security group is already created. So this is one part to remember. Second part to remember is that now this EC2 instance is getting created. Only after this EC2 instance gets created, then only the second security group, which is my test security group, will be created. Now, within this specific column, since we have a creation policy, and this creation policy has a resource signal of count is equal to 1 or timeout is 20 minutes. So what this basically means that this EC2 instance will not be marked as completed. So this create complete will not be associated with this EC2 instance unless and until CloudFormation receives one signal or there is a hard timeout of 20 minutes. So we'll look into how we can send this signal to the CloudFormation. But currently, since we have not defined anywhere to send a signal to CloudFormation, CloudFormation will wait for the signal which we have not configured to be sent. So till that timeout value of maybe 20 minutes or 1 hour, whatever you do, this status will always be in create in progress, even though your EC2 instance is up and running.